So I didn't check my P.O. box for a week, and when I did, there was a lot more mail in it than I was expecting, so we're getting 2 fan mail openings in less than a week. Let's get started with this one right here. I believe this was sent to me by a company that does shirts. Yeah, I know proper English, me does. So they asked me, they sent me a list of director names. They said, which director do I like? And then they said they would send me one of their shirts. What do we have here? I went with Quentin Tarantino, and this is the shirt that they sent me. It is from EM and AHR. I'll put links down below, but they have a bunch of different directors. If you're into auteur directors, their whole thing is making shirts based around celebrating kind of those auteur directors. Of the ones they sent me, Tarantino was my favorite, so I got a cool Tarantino shirt. Thank you so much for that. Like I said, the links are down below for where you can check that out if you're interested in that sort of thing. Then we have a package from Daniel Skinner. Okie dokie. First up is him messing with me. He is well aware I was not a fan of Chicken Little, so he decided to send me Chicken Little. Anytime there's a movie that he's into that he grew up with that I place low on a ranking, I'm pretty sure I will receive it pretty soon in the mail. We got Willy's Wonderland. This is a fun little movie that came out of nowhere earlier this year that, him at like a Chuck E. Cheese type place battling animatronic animals to come to life while throwing down soda. I had a blast with that movie. Thank you so much, Ben. Then we have the DVD of Toy Story of Terror, the short film, their Halloween little scary ones that they did from Toy Story. Very cool stuff. Speaking of movies that I put at the bottom of a list, I did an MC ranking of 58 different movies. At the bottom of the list was one, Howard the Duck, and now I own it in 4K pristine quality. And if you're not familiar with this movie, one George Lucas produced this film and was a big part of making this movie come to the big screen. And then we have Life in 4K. This is actually a movie that within the last 2 or 3 weeks I was showing the trailer to my wife and she's like, wait, what's this movie? It feels kind of like Aliens, except it's got Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal. This is like everyone in this is someone that I really like, and I hope, have I seen this one? Did you see it with them? I was like, yeah, I saw it without you, but it's not one that there wasn't a context where I would rewatch it at home with her. And so now having it, it's literally a movie we have been talking about recently that she can check out. Okay, moving right along, we've got a letter from one Sam Hoover. All right, so as I mentioned, it's from Sam Hoover. He's a big fan of my videos and basically said I was a big part of keeping him sane during quarantine. In the case of me, making all those videos is what kept me sane while stuck at home. And also was appreciated that I've kind of shared my story about being a youth pastor in the past and my struggles and just being honest about life. So that stuff's always hard to share. And but the overwhelming response has been positive from people that I try to be open and honest about my faith, my past, my faults, and my journey to be a better person. So he asked me in the note, what do I think about Wes Anderson films? So my plan is to rank all of his movies when The French Dispatch comes out, I believe in October. So a few months from now, I actually mapped out my plan for the whole rest of the year and what movies I need to make, this gigantic list of every movie I need to watch to do all the rankings. It's a pretty daunting task, but absolutely I plan to do a ranking of Wes Anderson films. What do I think about that right now? Wes Anderson, I probably would have told you Wes Anderson was one of my top 10 favorite directors back in the early zeros. Royal Tenenbaums came out kind of when I was in my most prestige films and going to art house films, and that's I discovered Jon Favreau when he made this little movie called Made that wasn't a big Hollywood film. Now he's not, Jon Favreau's associated with big Hollywood. At the time, he just did this little indie film with Vince Vaughn before Vince Vaughn was as big of a movie star as he was. And I saw a lot kind of these indie things and discovered Wes Anderson at this point in time. And just loved Bottle Rocket, Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore. In that time period, especially because of the types of stories, like Bottle Rocket and Royal Tenenbaums have a certain melancholy nature to them, and exploitation, broken families. It was just the right stories for me at that phase of life that I was in when I was in my early 20s. And I haven't followed along with him over the last 15 years. I haven't seen most of the movies he's done, and there's not a reason for that. I got swept up in life, actually tied into life, faith, and everything like that. Whenever I went up to Bible college, and that's kind of involved with when I met my wife, and it just wasn't a time period where I could go to the movies as much because I was in college, and you don't have money when you're in college. And then I was dating this girl, and then we were engaged, and then we were married and newlyweds, and then I was getting my first adult job. And so Wes Anderson and kind of like things that weren't big blockbusters, I didn't check them out as much, and I haven't caught up on Wes Anderson films. And that's one of the reasons I'm very excited to watch all of his movies and rank them, because there's a director that I would have told you was one of my top 10 favorite directors, and then that doesn't make any sense in light of the last 15 years because I haven't seen all these movies, and people tell me all these wonderful things about Grand Budapest Hotel and all these other films he's done that I'm sure I would love. I just haven't seen them yet. So there it is. All the quirkiness, the distinct style. Actually, I went to the movies earlier today. I went to go see the movie Pig, and it's an indie film. And so they played the trailer for The French Dispatch, and I hadn't seen it before. And my wife, she's not the cinephile that I am. And we get like 30 seconds into it. She goes, "Is this the movie, one of those movies from, that guy?" That was the way she described it. I, of course, knew that she knew exactly who the director was, because Wes Anderson has a distinct visual style that you're watching a Wes Anderson movie immediately. It's like, which movie? She goes, Life Aquatic with Bill Murray. Yes, it's Wes Anderson. It's that guy. She's like, okay, yes, because it's his movies. I mean, it's so distinct with the framing, the way that he does shots. You can't miss him. All right, we got a couple more from Daniel Skinner. Okay, 4K of The Shape of Water, and the latest movie from Guillermo del Toro just a few years back that won Best Picture, and I never saw it. It was, now that I'm kind of full time, I do my best to really see all of the nominees for Best Picture, but I wasn't able to do that before because I simply just didn't have time to watch everything, to cover everything. So I missed The Shape of Water when it initially came out, and so I've never seen it. And so it's one of those big blind spots of the last few years of movies that have been celebrated, that people talked about, that do what I do, and I haven't even seen it yet. So thank you so much for that. First up, we got Last Action Hero. I actually saw this one in the theater when it first came out. I was thinking maybe it was the first Arnold movie I saw in the theater, but I saw Kindergarten Cop in the theater, and that came out a few years before this one. So, Last Action Hero, which is an interesting film. If you don't know, it's basically a send-up of action movies where a kid has a magic ticket that sends him into action movies, and it's trying to poke fun at all the cliches of late 80s, early 90s action movies. And it's one of the writers on it was Shane Black, who famously wrote the Lethal Weapon movies and created a bunch of the tropes that are being made fun of. And it's directed by John McTiernan, the director of Predator and Die Hard. So the director that did all of these tropes as well. And so it's just an interesting little fun send-up. It's not quite as good as you'd hope it would be, but if you haven't seen it, you have to check out. If you're an action fan, if you're into like Arnold movies and late 80s, all that fun action, the heyday of action films, you gotta check out Last Action Hero. And there's a whole bunch of actors in it that are just fun to see show up. Like Ian McKellen has a small part in it, things like that. And we have Annihilation, the Natalie Portman movie from just a few years back, like a cerebral sci-fi film. I haven't read the book, so I don't know how close it is to the source material or anything like that. But like this real trippy, weird movie about aliens and this thing showing up. And then Apollo 13, and this is one of these movies that was when I first started paying attention to the world of the Oscars and celebrated movies and what's coming out. Tom Hanks had won back-to-back Best Actor nominees, or Best Actor Academy Oscars for Philadelphia, and then Forrest Gump. And then so the next year he did Apollo 13. I was like, how's this going to do? Is he going to get another one? It's going to be 3 in a row. So it was a great film. Everybody went to go see it and talked about it. It was like, in the day when I was like, still young, so discovering things, but old enough that I could appreciate Apollo 13. So that was a very fond memories of that film, but I haven't watched it in a very long time. And over here we have 4K of Green Book, the Best Picture winner from a couple years back. And a movie that won Best Picture, but is actually kind of divisive. It's interesting, one of those ones that it seemed like the vote was split amongst all these different types of films, and so then the safe pick was the one that ended up winning with Green Book. I appreciated it for what it was. A bunch of people seemed to like it, and a bunch of people seemed to really hate it. Really hate it when it came out. But I appreciate it. I dug it. So thank you much for that, and help me expand my prestige collection. First up, we've got a couple of DVDs. One for Paranorman. I have not seen this film. I'm aware of its existence. That's kind of my knowledge of it. And the other one is We Bought a Zoo, another movie that I don't know much about, but I'm aware of its existence. And so interesting. So should be fun little films to check out with the family. And then moving right along, woo! It's a 10-film movie collection with American-made Atomic Blonde, Battleship, Bourne Identity, Doom, Green Zone, Kick-Ass 2. In a previous fan mail, he sent me the first Kick-Ass, which in December I'll be doing a Matthew Vaughn ranking, and so I was going to watch both of the movies to try. As long as I'm watching one, might as well watch the other one. The Man with the Iron Fist, Smokin' Aces, and Wanted. Wanted is a movie that I haven't seen, though I probably should have seen it. So actually a bunch of movies in there that either I was planning on watching in the near future anyway, or haven't seen, or needed to own, but haven't owned yet. So awesome. Thank you so much for that. And then we have Chaos Walking. Actually, this has a Doug Liman movie too. So the Doug Liman movie that came out this year, and then the Tom Cruise Doug Liman movie that came out just a few years back. I haven't seen American Made either. Just missed it. I like the director, of course, like Tom Cruise, but I missed that particular movie when it came out. Back to Chaos Walking. One that I wasn't crazy about the movie, but it was one of those movies I said, I don't think it's very good, but it's one that I could see myself watching again, and one I could see my wife wanting to rewatch with me. She actually read the books, and it was an interesting experience as me, the person that was basically unfamiliar with the material. Her had read all of the books, and so she could explain to me like, yeah, okay, so this was going to do this, and this was probably setting up that, and then it went on this whole other direction, so she could explain it to me. And then finally, we have the original Pet Sematary. I want to make sure it was the original one, because I'm pretty sure it was, but I can't guarantee. But the original Pet Sematary film that I didn't see it until the remake came out. That was the first time I ever watched it. I actually went over to my friend's house and we did like a movie night watching it. And then I watched the second one the next day. But that was my introduction to it, was within the last couple of years. So I'm new to the Pet Sematary franchise. And now I have it in my collection so I can check that one out again. Thank you so much for that. All right, next one is from Kay McGowan. And historically, they have sent me movie posters. They get all sorts of, I believe they're in, I don't remember specifically where they're at, but somewhere in Europe, and they get different movie posters there, and they hand them out at the theaters. And so a bunch of the posters that you see back here in my videos, McGowan has sent to me in the past. And so I'm excited to see which ones are in here. And you're probably about to see some posters for the first time that you will see behind me in some videos. Yep, you will see this very soon. I will actually shoot a video on Friday using this exact poster. You will almost certainly see it. It's behind me very soon. So a Black Widow poster they just handed out in theaters, I guess, in Europe. And so that's, if you're wondering how do I get some of the posters I get, it's because different people in different parts of the world get different posters and then they send them to me. And it's cool because I get to see cool art and you guys get to see them as well in the background of my videos. This one right here, actually, I don't know when this video is going to post. So I'm filming this on a Wednesday. The video I'm going to post on Saturday will use this poster in the background, almost certainly. Alrighty, thank you guys so much. It just means the world to me that you would take the time to pause, write me a note, see a movie poster and think, that's perfect for Sean, he'll use that in a video. Or send me movies you're passionate about that you think that I need in my collection, that you would love for me to share my opinions on. That it means the world to me that you care enough to do that. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.